All right. Diet Coke works for you?
Diet Coke works great.
Magical.
Water works for you?
Oh, yes, very much. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to the first ever episode of Conservatish with Pete Feliciano. I am Pete Feliciano. And I am, at the moment, tripping out on if everything sounds right and everything's going to go okay. I doubt it will, but I'm trusting. I'm trusting
That's
the
what
universe.
It's for.
That's what?
That's what editing is for.
Yeah, but I wanna do like a very, natural feel. I don't want to.
Real spontaneous.
Yeah, real spontaneous. I don't know. Again, that's more of the fantasy-driven mind that I have.
So we're not gonna bleep out anything that's.
Oh, absolutely not. No, you can say absolutely everything you want. I mean, that's the main reason why, or not the main reason, but one of the great things I wanted to do was have this be a forum to have an actual conversation. You and I have good conversations.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and kind of wanted to be able to say all the foul shit that I want to say. And first things first, though, before we get into it, what do you want anonymity or do you want
a little bit of anonymity would be
okay
good.
So describe yourself then.
We can always discuss that too.
Sure. So describe yourself then. Who do you think you are?
Who do I think I am?
Because I would use your name. Do you want to use your name?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Sheldon. Okay. Can I tell the audience how we know each other?
Absolutely.
Okay. He is the keyboardist and pretty much the main kind of driving force behind the 80s band that I am currently exiting, that I've been a part of for about 2 years, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. An amazing musician, great guy. And I don't know where you want the anonymity to start coming into it.
You can use my first name.
Okay, Sheldon, got it. All right. And you don't want your address on the podcast?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, I did buy you Lay's, and I was joking. You're Wendy.
And my drink.
Yeah,
I'm
your
Wendy.
Diet Coke says Wendy.
I am Wendy today.
And I am, what am I, Samantha? Hang on, no. Yeah, I'm Samantha. See?
I guess the number one thing that's, that being a podcast is, and I'm totally honored to be your guest.
That's very
on the
kind
podcast
of
because, Pete being a phenomenal talent is how I know him in many, many ways. Performer being number one.
Oh, that's very nice.
And a person as also number one.
Oh,
so
really?
It's actually very outstanding. I have very, very high regards for this gentleman.
Oh, that's very nice of you. Here, pull the mic a little closer to you.
All right.
You can adjust it,
So that being said.
Yes, sir.
I guess our number one theme for today is actually my personal theme, which are rules are for fools and only guidelines for the wise. So think about that for a moment.
You have more suggested rules are for fools and guidelines for the wise.
And only guidelines for the wise.
Okay. Meaning those rules are just guidelines for the wise.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
How do you fold that into our relationship? Because you first started to talk about how amazing I was, which I think is a great conversation topic. How do you think that folds in to? Because I know you've mentioned it many times.
It folds in because it should be a philosophy on how we relate to almost everything in our environment and everybody in our lives. Whether it be platonic or intimate or whatever.
Okay.
That pretty much sums up like the sort of philosophy I think that going forward presents a very good blueprint on life.
Going what?
Going forward, I think it presents a very outstanding blueprint on life and the way that you should think and interact with everything around you and all the people that are around you too.
I think it applies to right now because, this is my first episode. And like I was saying, I'm very nervous. I want everything to go right. And
nervous?
Well, yeah.
You as a professional performer would come to me and say that you're nervous. I'm in the back line. Remember, I'm in the back line.
Yeah, but do you ever get nervous before shows?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the thing is like, that's why I'm in the back line.
Yeah.
All right. We're backline for a reason. We're backline for the support of the primary part of the entertainment. It is a team. I agree. It is a full-on team and everything like that.
And you're very good at what you do.
But, I've always felt that our role, as in the being in the back line, is to be able to support the front line in the very best that we can. In other words, we're making you look and sound the very best that the team can act.
Do you ever? I know we might be going all over the place. Is there ever an ego loss for you? Do you ever feel like you want to be in the front line?
Absolutely not.
You don't?
Absolutely not.
Have you always been that way? Did you ever feel like, oh man, I want to be out there rocking it?
Pretty much, if that was the case, you'd see me with a guitar.
Right.
Versus
you'd be
or a guitar or
right.
anything like that out there.
Yeah, you'd be Mugatu from Zoolander. You'd be the guy who was always wanted to get out front.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But that being said, like if you look at my career path and everything like that, we have never been the frontline shakers or anything, but always pretty much the stable support and pretty much the drive.
Okay.
For all working projects.
Okay.
That being artistic or technical, like in nature. So.
All right. Now you mean you mean the back line. You play an integral role, but it's not necessarily it's not ego driven.
It's not ego driven, and I think one of the most rewarding aspects is watching the team come together. So it is an integral part of the front line and the back line that make the show happen. And I think each and every show is a very unique experience and should always rightfully be so. I think once it becomes a monotonous task, it pretty much is
time to quit.
I wouldn't consider that an art anymore or anything like that.
You've been a part of bands where it becomes a monotonous hell.
We should always we should always look at where we've been and where we're going. I mean, how can you know possibly where you're going if you don't know where you've been?
Right.
And, I can reflect back and think of all the inspirations at the time that said, hey, I want to be a keyboard player or whatever versus I want to be in the front line or whatever. So, that being said, I know how many guitarists or bassists that were all guitarists first, and it was just too challenging for them, so they became bassists.
Meaning technically, or
well, in the hierarchy of things, everybody wants to be. When you say, "Hey, I want to be a rock star," I mean, you think about Robert Plants, and you think about like those,
Jimmy Page,
these sizzling like performers that are always in the front line per se.
Right.
Do you really think about like the production portions of a show or an album?
I wasn't even. I mean, you were talking about you went to the Foreigner concert, and I was and you said John Bonham. What's the name of the opening band?
It's Jason Bonham's
Led
Led Zeppelin Experience.
Okay,
and
I know Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, and John Bonham. I cannot think of who the bassist's name was.
Neither can I, because surprisingly enough, hey, I'm older than you.
What?
By far.
No.
Except, at the same time, I can't remember Led Zeppelin as it came out.
No, you weren't. You were more. Your heyday was more the '80s, wasn't it?
It certainly was.
Okay.
And that's why Led Zeppelin kind of predates like my listening a little bit,
right?
And everything. Except, that was a magical time. The '60s, the '70s, formatively for music, was a time that was pretty much revered in talent.
Right.
You really needed to be talented to be good at what you did. You could not hide behind a gimmick. You could not hide
a face
behind pure marketing.
Right.
You could not hide behind just a pretty face. Yes.
Well, what about? But there was so like I always think of like Christopher Cross, ugly dude, very talented guy. Ugly boy. But, so that was 70s, right? That was about...
Absolutely.
Okay. But then there also was the Osmonds, and stuff like that, where there was a gimmick and maybe
talented
not.
Too. Very, very talented too. They could play their instruments. They could bring their instruments,
Really?
and they could actually play their
Okay,
instruments.
I've never seen. I never. All I know is them singing into a. Why was the '70s? They had always had that incredibly skinny microphone with like a very long skinny microphone with the little P on the tip of it, and that's what. All I remember them singing. Yeah, exactly. That microphone.
It's kind of like well, that was an electro voice microphone that was a good marketing gimmick.
Oh, okay.
But nevertheless, it's like the Osmonds. You know, I would not discount them.
Okay.
Surprisingly, I listened to a lot of screaming music that dates from the 70s.
Screaming music.
Screaming.
Okay,
Screaming.
like what?
Screaming
Give me an
stations
example.
that actually come from Calgary, actually.
Calgary.
My birthrights, because there's
You're
a lot
Canadian.
I am a Canadian.
And you're a Canadian of what descent?
I am Canadian of Canadian?
I mean, what's your heritage?
My heritage.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, I'm saying like you some Asian descent, right?
Oh,
You have-
absolutely.
Oh, okay. I was like, but is it Chinese?
It is Chinese.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's Chinese.
Absolutely.
How many
I'm the first generation to be born actually in Canada,
in Canada? Okay.
and now I'm both. I'm a dually.
You're okay. And so you have American citizenship as well?
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes, sir.
And when did you come to America?
I came actually to go to college in the late 80s.
Okay.
So it was a chance to actually escape, because if I were to have stayed in Canada, the influences of the time, namely being my friends at the time,
Would have kept you Calgaryan forever.
playing on the road, playing
Okay.
the 80s as I lived it in the late 80s. So
Really? So you were a part of cover bands back then?
absolutely.
Okay. Was it rocky type of stuff like we did, or
Absolutely, all Bon Jovi,
Was it okay?
all
I
pretty
like
much.
how
A
I like
lot
how
of the
French you said that, by the way. Bon Jovi.
You know, I heard Bon Jovi the very first time in a very small bar in a little place called Red Deer in 1983.
In Canada,
Just
obviously.
barely
Yeah.
being able. And remember, the drinking age is only 18,
Oh, really?
so you can actually, get into these places.
Were you
And
18?
I was not 18.
Okay.
However,
Well, black don't crack, so that's why you.
watching this band, it was an experience even then, and I can remember this because it was like they introduced themselves as a band from New Jersey,
Oh, you saw them live. I thought you were just
Live.
talking about. Wow. Okay.
live in a bar, and this is before the time their actual first record actually had been released. And they were phenomenal. They were doing cover tunes and they were doing original tunes.
Okay.
But
Do you
as
remember
the
any of the
introdu-
originals?
The original, the first one that they came out of the chute was "Runaway,"
Wow, that's awesome.
and this was a time when live entertainment was huge. The Rigger Bar actually held probably about 400 people,
Wow.
and that was normal for all cover bands at the time.
Okay.
So it was always a treat to have these American bands come through because they were highly talented, and they were all on the cusp of actually being original artists. So Bon Jovi being the first that was out of the gate, that I think all my friends said, "You have to come down here. You have to listen to these guys. They're just unbelievably talented and tight."
Right.
So going down there, it's like it was the experience that actually kind of lit me on becoming like a huge Bon Jovi fan, and watching the way David Bryan plays is always been a high inspiration for me.
Who's David Bryan?
He is the keyboard player for Bon Jovi.
Ah. Okay.
So I thought, those are some of the moments that kind of capture you as you grow old, and you don't realize like those are the moments that are the most inspirational and direction changing for you. So
Okay. So you saw him, and did you automatically know, man, I want to do that? Were you already playing or no?
I was already playing. I was forced or bribed into taking piano, and the bribe was this: it's
Oh,
like,
God.
a piano at the time, an upright piano, to a think I was like 6 years old.
Okay.
Isn't a sexy
No.
instrument.
No, it is not.
As a matter of fact, it's like listening to my older sister going through the ropes and everything like that. It sounded boring,
Right.
per se.
But violin is worse. It seems like a lot of Asian kids coming up, they usually go for piano or violin.
Yeah, it's kind of like one of those things that, you know, like, I don't know, at the time. It's a stereotype that is a true stereotype. Yeah. It really is. It really is.
Anyway, continue. So you didn't want to do piano.
Of course not.
But
of course not.
What was the bribe?
The bribe was this. It's like, you know, looking on television at the time, you know, one instrument that I thought, well, if you had to take piano, what would you rather play? And at the time, the cool things were electric pianos and the birth of synthesizers at the time.
Right.
See, so the bribe was made was, well, I'll take piano lessons on the promise of an electric piano at the end of this. Of course, at that age, when you're 6 years old, you don't know where the end is.
Right.
Your parents haven't defined where the end is.
Well,
you might think, oh, you know, I'm going to take this for a few months or something like that, and
or I'll be. You don't know the concept of this is going to take me years and years and years to get proficient.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
But you know, in retrospect, it was the right thing. The rudimentary roots of all that arduous practice really pays off a long time after you don't ever appreciate it at the time.
In a lot of different aspects too. I've been getting more used to this idea of discipline as something to be something to shoot for. I know that may not seem like a new concept, but I mean, maybe I've never put it in that framework in my head, but that's actually incredibly useful, you know, and not just, okay, for you musically later on to be able to play the synthesizer, to be able to play these other things, or to know you can, but also to learn that working hard for a long time is actually, there's a tremendous gifts in that, right?
There is, and you know, given that we watch how a lot of younger kids approach music today.
In what way do you think?
It is kind of interesting because they pretty much grew up in the instant world.
Right.
Where things are quick.
Right.
The web is quick.
Right.
Searching is quick. Googling is quick.
Right.
Instagram is quick.
Yes,
social media is quick. It's almost instant.
Right. And shitty. But anyway, continue.
So, that being said, the same principles apply to anything to them from their perspective. Business, career paths, music. It's like, well, I can just have a few keystrokes or thumb presses here and make fantastic music.
Right.
Like, where are, like, and then it's like, where are all these results? I'm not seeing these results, and they get impatient, they quit.
Oh, absolutely. That's my experience with many things. I mean, that's the only reason why I play guitar. I mean, and it's fine or whatever, but like the only reason why I really play guitar is because I can't get up there. It's awkward to just get up there by myself playing and press play on a track and sing. Like, it's better. I can be by myself when I have a band behind me to play with or to, you know, interact with or to, you know, I love jumping around, but I can't just get up there by myself. So I have a guitar because it was faster than relying on 5 different other people's schedules and proficiencies and whatever. But ultimately, I don't like playing an instrument because it does take time, and I'm impatient, and I want, you know, and I have that same character defect of like, oh no, I don't want to wait, so I'm going to give up on this, you know, give up on karate, give up on this, you know, I want it faster, you know.
Well, talents, you know, you know, we see this. I've seen this many, many times in my life, in any arts. Another thing that I spent time with in my life, putting together, it was always guy things. It was always redneck things. Like, you know, if it wasn't like
guy
cars,
things,
building
why
cars,
that's so
chasing girls or whatever. It was
that's so heteronormative.
And in this politically correct society,
Yeah.
that's why I refer back to my first motto of rules are for fools.
Okay.
Like, why should we have rules of engagement for anything?
What do you mean?
I think you should be able to say and express and pretty much enjoy anything you'd like to pursue in your mind or in your life, so as long as it doesn't hurt anybody.
So you're very kind of libertarian in that way.
In that way,
yeah, I am as well. That's so the reason why I guess I should probably have started it off, but like the reason why I wanted to call this podcast Conservative-ish is because over the last year and a half or so, I have become a lot more kind of libertarian in a lot of different ways. And
do you describe yourself as being conservative in the first place?
Not a long time ago, I have a couple of different beliefs that I don't want to be pigeonholed into anything, you know what I mean? Which is why I kind of like conservative-ish. Kind of rolls off the tongue and also kind of gets people a little mad, which would be nice. I like making people mad. I like getting reactions. But also there are some things, especially in the Bay Area, that you're just not allowed to feel. You're just not allowed to think. You're just not even allowed to have a conversation about. And I hate that shit. I fucking hate that shit. And so I want to be able to come from I don't want to come from a platform of like, hey, everybody who comes on the show has to, but no, absolutely not. But I want to be able, and especially, we've already talked about music. We've talked about 80s. We've talked about discipline a little bit. I don't want to only have a politically centric podcast, but I do want to be able to say some shit. I do want to be able to say some shit you're not allowed to. You know what I mean? I hate.
Let's talk about something you're not allowed to. This is very curious.
Well, let's. I love that. The thing you were just talking about. This is some. You said some more guy centric stuff, and that's. I do think. In the Bay Area, there are a lot of people. It's very heteronormative. I think there are things that are. I think men and women do have differences between the two of them.
Exactly.
And I do think those are allowed to be talked about and generalized about. It's not a hard and fast rule that all, that men are always gonna that all men are always better at basketball than all women. Of course not. I don't even fucking play basketball. I don't give a fuck about basketball. Obviously, anybody on the WNBA could whip my fucking ass at basketball. But the hoops are not as high, and they're just the best woman in WNBA, in my opinion, could not come close to fucking LeBron. They could not come close to Kobe. Could not come close, and that's not because they're bad people. That's not because women shouldn't be allowed to. No, do whatever you want. Libertarian as fuck. Go for it. Go play, baby girl. But to say, well, there are no differences. It's a social construct. Gender is not a social construct. It's just fucking not. Does that mean that men should not be allowed to cry? No, cry it up, baby girl, whatever you want. I'm just saying, that idea that you're not allowed to express. You're not even allowed to say, more guy shit, guy-centric stuff. And again, we're generalizing, but that's stupid that you're not allowed to say that, or at least allowed to express that.
I think you've pretty much touched on a lot of things. To say, I've been... pretty much described as being ultra-conservative or ultra-liberal.
Right, exactly. But see,
Sheldon,
you have
very, very good colleague, and I've known her for almost 20 years. Mm-hmm. You got to hear the story on this.
Okay, I'm ready.
When I met her, I met her on the adjacent treadmill. So
okay. Did you guys
she was in
date or anything?
Phenomenal shape.
Okay.
And this is in a company gym.
Right.
In a company gym. And of course I took notice. She was attractive and very determined in her stride. And I'm on a treadmill because I'm trying to keep shape.
Right.
I'm doing it for cardio. Right. Not because I'm passionate about running whatsoever. Right. As a matter of fact, I hate running.
It's the fucking... Ugh, it's the worst.
But I do it for cardio. And it's a routine in my routine, and that's what I did.
Part of the discipline thing.
Absolutely. So that being said, my first question to her after noticing her, like in the same schedule as mine, for a few days was, do you work in marketing?
That's a weird pickup line, Sheldon.
That was not a pickup line. It was an observation because it's like, I grew up in the world of engineering.
Okay.
And girls in engineering do not look like that. At least then. Because it was an emerging field. Mm-hmm. You know, it was just science. Here we go again with the gender descripts and everything like that.
Right.
You know, there's no reason why any female out there can't be in these male-dominated type of roles.
And excel.
Such as engineering.
Right.
It's just, like, instead of, like, encourage them to say, hey, they should like liberal arts, you should like math or sciences.
Right.
Which is fine. So, yeah, to my surprise, she said she was not in marketing. And as a matter of fact, she worked in the semiconductor modeling group, which was just, as a matter of fact, only a few floors away from my office, per se.
Okay.
So that pretty much put that into perspective. And, you know, the long and the short of it is she has become a fantastic colleague of mine. I mean, we've shared everything.
All right.
At some point.
Okay. Did you work together before you shared other things?
We've actually never worked on any projects. I was always a hardware applications in the hardware applications group.
Okay.
And she was always in the semiconductor modeling group.
I don't know any of the things you're saying right now.
Pretty much very, like, diverse. And your paths are not normally going to cross, per se, or anything. That being said, you know, she's one of the people that I would say that know me very well.
Okay.
And we share a lot of the same philosophies.
Okay.
But she will still make that mistake today of saying, you're ultra-conservative.
Right. Right.
And my perspective is like, hey, wait a minute. That's like conservatism or liberalism, if you describe yourself at some point, or the extremes, pretty much can be modeled as 360 degrees. 360 degrees or an extremity of one area is almost the same as going around all the way.
Okay. So what's an example of that?
Well, to say, from a conservative point of view, that roles are for roles, and that's traditionally always been the case, per se.
Meaning roles exist for a reason.
Yeah.
And
we shouldn't touch them.
Okay.
And as you get into the more liberal views, what I've observed is, well, wait a minute, that's not correct. Okay. It's not correct in all situations.
Sure.
And then it kind of morphs to, it's not correct in any situations.
Okay, because liberalism ultimately is saying it's not satisfied.
Exactly.
It's not satisfied with, let us cut this corner. Okay, we cut the corner. No, not good enough. You know, we need to make it, you know, like I was listening to something earlier and they were talking about how colored used to be allowed to say, and then, okay, now we need to, we changed it to black. Okay, and now we change it to African American. Okay, now we change it to marginalized. You know, it just keeps getting, it's person of color. You know, they're not satisfied.
Exactly. And
here, hold the mic a little closer to you.
They get pretty much caught up in the notion of change, and any change is always progressively good. Versus, if you were just extremely specific as being conservative, you could be construed as being a libertarian. That's us.
Right. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So back to my colleague, she doesn't see that.
Right.
So
I think, honestly, this is one of the things I should think more about this before I don't want to come at this podcast just like, with the name and everything just ready to, guns blazing, because I don't know what I'm talking about in a lot of different ways. And sometimes I'm super wrong. But I think, I seem to run into it over and over where, like, say you have somebody, like, I genuinely don't believe that the people. So James Gunn, do you know what happened with James Gunn recently? The director, Guardians of the Galaxy. Old tweets of his from 2000, I think it was 11 or somewhere back there. Old tweets have quote unquote surfaced where he was making pedophile jokes, and so Disney kicked him off of the third. He was going to direct the Guardians of the Galaxy, the third edition or whatever the hell, and so they kicked him off because of those old tweets and said, this does not reflect blah blah blah. And a lot of people have come to his defense, but in my opinion, I do not think that this horde of people who are calling for get people in trouble for whatever. Apparently, this time with James Gunn, it was some conservatives, but the pattern of doing that, of going after people. I don't think it's dudes. I just don't think it's dudes. I think it's women or people who identify more feminine. If you identify as somewhere in the middle of, whatever, go for it. But, like, it's that feminine energy where it's just like, this looks like this, or it's the context is just gets over people's heads. And I think it's mostly, and I know this is fucking politically incorrect, but women more just don't. It doesn't seem on social media, especially, that women understand context. And I'm not saying that as a definitive thing, but I'm saying it doesn't seem that way. Because the people who are part of these mobs are either women or dudes who are feminine. Meaning There are no masculine men who are going after James fucking Gunn. There are no masculine men who are going after the people who are making fucking jokes.
That's the same kind of experience as I've been to. You've been to Vegas many times, haven't you?
I've been to Vegas only once, but it was for a couple of days.
Okay, Vegas. When I was in Vegas, I've been to Vegas many, many times throughout the years. 80s, 90s, the 2000s, post 2K, now, present.
Right.
One thing interesting trend that I saw once is, and you understand the tagline of Nevada is what
happens in Vegas stays in Vegas?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That is their marketing tagline.
For a while, yeah.
I was on a corner and I was approached by, they were all guys, actually.
Okay.
Well, I would say guys kind of loosely because this isn't a politically correct podcast or anything like that. So it's like, I wouldn't call them guys, but they were male. All right.
Okay.
And they were presenting on a platform to say that they wanted high heels on females banned in Vegas.
You were approached on the Strip?
To sign a petition to say that high heels were being sexist and it was bad for, like, pretty much bad for
equality and the progression of women's equality.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's like, it's like,
in this group you said they're dudes, so meaning they had dicks, but they were kind of effeminate. They were a little,
And I saw this at the NAMM show back in the 90s, actually.
That's when those dudes approached you.
The same type of people versus it's the same person with a different face.
Okay.
But it's the same person.
Right.
Say. I'm going to call them people, not necessarily guys. Okay. People with dicks, all right? And maybe even that's questionable too, but nevertheless. Right. I was in the scene is like the post 80s into the early 90s. What was rock and roll? It was rock and roll was king.
Right.
It was exactly what we do in vinyl replay.
Right.
Correct.
Oh, you said the name of the band, so
that was a fantastic era to have gone through.
Right.
Everything was big, everything was excessive for reasons.
Okay.
That being said, like, one of the most iconic shows at the time, if you were in the industry, was the NAMM show, and it still is.
Right.
The National Association of Music Merchants, and it holds two shows, being the West Coast one in Anaheim has always been the show to go to if you go to a show. So it was always a 3 to 4 day event, and just a huge excuse for a party.
Right.
So if you
And
were
it's musicians and what else?
it's musicians. It's actually the merchants or the designers of all these instruments actually presenting a trade show. The first day is always the serious guys. It's the suits. It's what I was in because I was also
Guys from ASCAP, BMI, that type of thing.
everybody in the industry, all the buyers, all the music, pretty much the merchants.
Uh-huh.
They would meet the manufacturers at the time. So like for me, it was like you would hang out all day in the Roland booth, which was a whole floor of all their latest and greatest toys and everything. You could go over there, you can actually talk to some of the designers of these iconic instruments.
Nice.
And it was like where series deals was done. Like if you wanted a franchise for Korg, if you wanted a franchise for Shure microphones or whatever like that, you would actually establish those business contacts during day one.
Wow. Okay.
So by day two, it would morph into how did all the musicians of the day
they wake up at 2 p.m.
They would get in somehow. And it was like a phenomenal thing. I lined up and I got one of the highlights, and I remember this distinctly, was a lot of the merchants, would have their giveaways, and they would have somebody famous in a booth. As a matter of fact, I was talking with my manager. I was working in the music industry at the time. Mm-hmm. And my manager and I said, hey, we have to check out the, I think it was Takamine.
That's a keyboard company. Oh, okay.
Guitar.
See, that's how disconnected I am from all that shit. I just don't care.
We're in this display, and it's like, it was the big hair time. Every guys, girls, and everything. Everybody had big hair. It was fun.
You still have big hair.
It was fun.
Okay.
I'm lost in the 80s.
Okay. Yeah, I know.
So we were in this booth, pretty much listening to the manufacturer talk about this, and they usually get like people that are interesting, or a lot of the artists that they give their endorsements to man these booths for the time.
Okay.
Excuse me. So that being said, it was like Overdrive on Big Hair, Pretty Girls.
Right.
I mean, that was all rock and roll, and beer or whatever, and everything like that. It was everywhere. You could still smoke in the aisles of all these trade shows and everything. And,
pretty sure you can still smoke in Vegas. Last time I was there, anyway.
In the trade shows, you cannot.
Okay.
In the indoor buildings, like some of those. But this is not Vegas. This is Anaheim.
Oh, I'm California. Sorry. Okay.
So I remember listening to the representative talking. She's very attractive, very, very attractive woman. Mm-hmm. And she absolutely knew this instrument intimately, inside and out. She could tell you anything about it. She was
the Roland keyboard.
No, this was a Takamine.
Right.
Guitar.
Okay.
I remember. And at the time, you're kind of like numb from, everywhere you look. There's big hair, pretty girls. Big hair, pretty girls.
Right.
Big hair, pretty girls.
Right.
You multiply that by hour 12, and it's like big hair, pretty girls.
Right.
Big hair,
right.
Pretty girls. And now it's like big hair, very pretty girl, and very intelligent.
Right. And
I'm looking, and I happened to glance down at her chest. Naturally.
Sure.
Naturally.
Right.
But the chest
because of the evil,
awesome.
Just because of the evil male gaze. No.
Because I'm proud to be a guy, and I'm not afraid to say that.
Yay! Titties are wonderful. And not just that, women are fucking... I'm sorry, I'm going to take a real quick tangent. Women are fucking filthy, too. Y'all are motherfuckers, too. Y'all, when I hate that shit.
They love it just as much.
Yes. And y'all are nasty, fetishizing, fucking... When you guys talk to each other, you want to talk about, straight men are the devil, Like, get in a car with a couple of gay guys. Some nasty... filthy. Get in a car with a couple of women and let them start fucking showing dick pics to each other and fucking, y'all are nasty too. Stop it. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Exactly. That's how we all got here. Come on.
Yes, exactly.
Be real and be realistic.
So you happened by accident to see her chest.
No, I did not. I deliberately looked down there.
Okay,
only because I did what was natural. All right?
Yes, sir.
I noticed her name tag in the beginning. Actually, I checked her out first. I mean, that's just iconically what you do.
Right.
And at the first time, it's like her name tag was actually backwards. It's hanging on a clip, and it was just flipped backwards, so we didn't know the name. After she was describing like some of the attributes of the guitar and all the fine things to my manager at the time, who was like, we're actually, he was representing Long McQuaid Canada actually, and they were looking for new lines to add into the retail. So it's the business day. During the demonstration, apparently the name tag had flipped around, and once again my eyes are doing the scan,
right?
And I glance over, and this time her name tag is up.
Okay.
And I read it, and inside it's like, at first, because you're pretty much enveloped by the same scene of the 80s. The big hair, the girls, the big hair, the girls.
Sure.
Everywhere you look, that's what it is.
And cigarettes, apparently.
Absolutely. It was a great time.
Okay.
Her name. Her name was Nancy Wilson.
Oh, wow. Very
and
cool.
it was like, Nancy, well, duh.
Right.
This is Nancy Wilson of Heart. And it's
Okay.
like, she was like intelligent, just like remarkably intelligent and remarkably passionate
right
about the brands that she was endorsing at the time.
Right.
And everything like that. And it's like a huge respect for that. So.
But you're mainly saying that to say what? She was kind of the exception, or what?
No, women. She was so comfortable in her role.
Okay.
Right. I mean, that's when I look at the highest regards for the women that are in my life, they are utmostly confident in who they are,
right,
and what they are.
Ah.
You see.
And so there is a difference.
There is a huge difference.
Right.
And they don't get lost in the fact that, hey, we need to make things equal, or we need to make this change. Like, people get caught up in the process of change versus where are you changing it to.
Right.
They don't realize the ultimate goal. I mean, and they are swayed as people into becoming the foot soldiers for something that ultimately they have no control over, and maybe, perhaps, isn't an outcome that they actually pretty much realize.
I think
even
there's
something
also
even closer, like this pink hat movement.
Yeah.
That was in the city shortly after the Trump took his office.
Right.
I was there. I was there on a business tour with my wife.
Okay.
And we were on everywhere we went. It was all these pink hoodies and everything, and it was like
it's a pussy hat. It's a hat.
I was watching this. from afar, and I was watching, and I was like, talking to some of the participants and everything, and I said, "Hey, what's up?
What's going on with this?
What's going on with like this?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, like a lot of them would describe, we started here and everything." It's like, "Well, you're not there now," and it's like, "Well, we walked a couple of blocks, but I stopped in at this bar, and we were just having fun after that."
Right.
And I'm thinking, it's like, you're really walking for a cause that you really don't fully understand.
Right.
And if I was looking at the situation, and I told my wife, I said, you know what? If I had known this further, it's not that I have anything against this. Don't get me wrong.
Okay.
I have, if that's what you feel, and that's what you're passionate about, by all means, go to the nth degree to complete that task.
Okay.
Now, what did I want to do? It's like, well, you're not going to see me marching or anything like that, but it's like, here's where I would have done something different. It's like, I would have wanted to know that this is the movement, And I would have went to the manufacturer in China to sit there and say, make me 1,000,000 of these pink hats. And you know what? I'm going to sell them.
Are you implying, Sheldon, last name redacted, are you implying that someone could make money off of a movement? That seems so strange. I would never...
It's called capitalism.
I went to...
Start to finish.
I went to... And there's nothing wrong with that. I went to... But I took some pictures, or some video, I think. I was at Target a few weeks ago, or end of June. End of June is Pride Month. And I'm, I have a very close family member who is super gay. And I have done lots of community volunteering for the gay community. I'm super on board with that shit. I love gay people, and it's all good. But, and I hate that I have to fucking caveat that, but whatever. Anyway, but I was at Target a few weeks into June. And I just saw rows and rows, because it was after the Pride area, and it was the Pride time, and there were rows and rows of old, like this is like, they would have it for Valentine's Day, March 1st, Valentine's Day crap, all in these aisles. It was July 2nd, and there was a bunch of Pride, rainbow colored pens and rainbow colored pads and rainbow colored hats and rainbow colored glasses and rainbow colored shirts and rainbow colored blah 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 blah, and it's just been. Just like anything, just like grunge, start out this great movement, and then there's Macy's who has torn jeans and fucking, it's the same thing over and over, and yet it has some sort of when it's a movement like Pride or when it's a movement like that, it becomes almost like it's an untouchable. Like, you can't make fun of Pride, you can't make fun of the pussy hat thing, you can't make fun. Like, yes, I think we can, especially when. I don't have a problem with people, go for it. Go protest. Go do whatever you fucking want to do. I guess I only have a problem when it becomes so serious that you can't make fun of it. I can't, or when...
You're forced to accept it.
You're forced to accept it, and everyone has to believe the same things, and everyone has to... And it's an untouchable... It's a sacred... Fuck you. Nothing is sacred. Like, you're allowed to make fun of things, and context matters, and just the self-awareness of like, hey, we started this movement, and now it's kind of goofy, or now it's kind of this, or now it's kind of morphed into this other thing. Like, the women's movement is a perfect example.
But the women's movement is not new. If you look at history, I mean, I hear people today saying, the State of the Union has never been as fragile and as worrying, and
I disagree with that.
You do not have to look far back in history to look at situations that were far worse. Mm-hmm. Far significantly worse here in your backyard.
Way worse. And people
don't remember that, and the people having these young kids that don't remember this did a poor job of telling,
explaining that.
Showing that parts of history. You don't have to look far.
No.
You really don't have to look far. As a matter of fact, one of the most, I'll ask you, it's like, what do you think the most riveting, most pivotal memory of your life really has been? Something that
from a public eye standpoint?
From anything. And it's like, it goes back to the premises. You don't know when you're making a memory until after you've made one.
Sure.
Right? So...
I don't know. I mean, I want to say... I don't think anything, politically necessarily. I don't think I even turned online, politically until maybe 2000 and... maybe 5,
Yeah, but you're a young guy, so...
Yeah, I'm 32. But... I was 15 when 9/11 happened, but that wasn't pivotal, because I was 15 and I didn't really grasp the depth of it. But, that was way fucking worse. I hear a lot about the Cold War in the 80s. That was not fucking fun, I've heard. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of things. a lot of times, I don't know if I can answer that question because I think it's more personal stuff, and not like I'm trying to, I'm happy to share all kinds of foul shit that I've done, but I mean like as far as like a turning point.
Turning point only because, I'll share one with you.
Okay.
And it's only one, and I could probably safely say, in my adult life, it was the only time. It was pivotal because it was probably the only moment in time that I actually felt small and scared and insignificant, and you realized your whole outlook on what people do and the fine line between what we call civilization and civilized people and behavior come to a point where you realize it's a very, very fine line. And for me, that was 1992.
92.
During the Los Angeles riots. I was there.
Oh, you were in L.A.
I was in L.A. graduating.
Holy shit.
Undergraduate that month when that Wednesday came, and I remember that so distinctly.
Wow.
So much that it is for my life at least an iconic time, because it pretty much, like in one short time, showed you the fragility of life, and like I said, the fine balance between what we call civilized behavior and progressive behavior,
right,
and all this other nonsense we like to show as a facade to what real, true human nature really is about.
Right. You saw people. So explain a little bit about your experience with that.
Well, I think, it was a time where, like, you knew how, like, the riots were pretty much was pretty much a flashpoint to a lot of the social situations that were there at the time.
Right.
And even going through it, what was amazing is it was almost a carbon copy of what happened 20-something years earlier in the same area called Watts.
Okay.
All those tensions, all the
Watts riots. What was? Explain a little bit about what that was.
It was pretty much the same things that we have today, the same challenges we have today: racial inequality. Something has to be done about this. Pretty much the discriminations of the time, the rulings of the time.
Right.
Who makes the rules?
Right.
Where funds are allocated, what's important, what's not, what media sees, what media presents. Pretty much the social engineering of the time. And it pretty much comes down to is like human nature itself has changed very, very little in all this time.
Right.
So that being a very pivotal part of the time when you actually see, if you think, we have this facade of security around us.
Sure.
But, to realize that, man and mankind is capable of total extremes.
Right.
You don't have a chance to become as fluently liberalized chasing a bullshit cause just for the sake of
because shit's
actually,
real. Because shit's real, right?
And actually, patting yourself in the back, thinking, "Hey, I did such a good job." At
check out my pussy hat. I'm a good person.
So. And
Which
by the way, I have all these, you can't do this, and you've set back up the framework of all these rules once more.
Right.
So
it used to be, from what I see, and we'll go back to that, but it used to be, the PMRC in the 80s with Ms. Gore going after Frank Zappa and Prince and all these people for the bad language. It used to be the conservative, kind of more Christian right shutting down things and being, this Ice-T character making this song called Cop Killer. We need to we need to shut this down, right? It used to be the Christian right, and now it's the atheist left who wants to shut everybody down and curtail language and make everybody, they're the bad person police and the bad behavior police. And it's a weird thing, but it's the same. It's like you're saying, it's the human nature. I was listening to something earlier, and this whole idea of, James Gunn and everybody getting in trouble and the mob, it's still like it may be a Twitter mob, it may be a virtual mob, but it's still a mob. We're still putting people in the stocks, you know what I mean? Like, and throwing tomatoes at them.
And I would say, just fucking grow up.
Do you hear that vent, by the way? That vent it's ruining our amazing episode, that vent, and I don't know how to shut it off. If everyone's hearing that, just know that it's not my fault, and I'll do my best to never let it happen. I'm sorry, continue. If I listen back to this episode and there's a vent, I'm gonna kill myself. I'm gonna not.
No, you won't.
Anyway.
Life goes on.
Yeah, so what happened? So you're saying you were a part of, or not, you weren't a part of the riots, but you went through that time, and that was
the time when I realized it was like the scene. The scene was very interesting because, that being said, the scene is, we're about to graduate. We're only a week away. We're just wrapping up classes, and we didn't have the internet like you have today.
Right.
That's one thing that you can't assume that all the communication medias are what you have today.
Right.
That being said, it was easy to go through my routine at campus because
Because you had one.
Well, I was at USC, which is in, guess where? South Central LA.
Really?
Beautiful campus.
In the middle of South Central LA?
In the very middle
Interesting.
of South Central LA.
Okay.
It's such a interesting... Like, Los Angeles was a place where I wanted to go and do, like, at least undergrad at the time.
Okay.
And the reason being is, early on, coming from a small town in Canada, is like, hey, if I can actually survive and live in a place like Los Angeles all by myself, I could probably...
Make it anywhere.
Have enough skills to go and move anywhere and be able to cope. And that being like you're just graduating and everything like that. And you have your whole.
It's an incredibly
look forward to.
Valuable thing to accrue. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, and it will teach you like pretty much street smarts and a lot of what it's like to be very much alone in.
You seem
very large place.
You seem like you had street smarts from Canada too, though. It wasn't.
You have to. They're all survival instincts that you actually acquire from your environments and everything. So, that being said, it was like a very quaint, normal day. Verdicts were read. It was a Wednesday. You didn't think much of it because it was a long, drawn out process. Everybody suspected that, it's going to be a repeat of what happened before. It's the same.
There's going to be marches. There's going to be people upset. Jesse Jackson's going to be yelling. But other than that, no one thought.
Absolutely. Like there was Mayor Tom Bradley, African American mayor and everything like that. Things are more stable than what they were 20 years ago. But, the whole crux of this melting pot was the same. It was like the guy was Rodney King. That expression was he was Rodney King, and that's evokes a lot of issues that are very real socially.
Sure.
So, but after that, it was like, by 7:00 at night, the verdicts were read properly, 4 or so? By 7:00 at night, we're on campus and they're locking it down. And here's the crux of how humans like to, or faced with disasters, how they behave.
Ugh.
Well, we didn't know why they were locking down this campus. We've never seen it before. I was there for 4 years. It's like, this has never happened. But they look like they're locking down this campus. So you go and you ask, what's going on, and they all say nothing. They just say, no, we're just closing down this section.
So they weren't saying that there was a riot happening.
Nobody ever said there was a riot. Even as a newly minted undergrad here, we didn't think anything different. And, LA, South Central, was our home for 4 years. Its life is as usual as can be. It's rather odd that they're locking all these gates down, but you asked them and they nobody would tell us. Nobody would tell us.
Did you ever find out why?
Well, yeah. As I drove off campus, because I lived off campus for my final year and everything, I lived in UCLA territory, actually, in Westwood, actually, which is the West, right?
Sure.
It's the nice area.
Okay.
So as I'm leaving onto the famous 10 freeway, it's like I'm listening to, guess what? FM radio, my rock stations.
Sure.
It is business as usual. It is
Right.
programming as usual. There is nothing. As a matter of fact, there was like a favorite of 4 or 5 stations. Popping through them all like I'm always doing.
Mm-hmm.
Business as usual. The 10 freeway after rush hour, business as usual.
Right.
There was nothing to tell you of anything, except I saw 2 battalions of fire trucks on the freeway, but they were just sitting on the freeway. That I've never seen.
Wow.
So it's like, all right, they're staging, we see a lot of crazy things in LA. One thing about LA is, like, if you can actually live in LA, you're never surprised with anything, because nothing should surprise you. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, but then, a little further on the 10, I noticed, hey, there's a building on fire here.
Wow.
And it's very well, involved. And it's kind of peculiar because they say, hey, there are fire trucks and engines parked on the freeway, but they're not actually going to this fire, which is...
This is 7 at night?
About 7 at night.
So then was there regular traffic?
Yeah, regular traffic is as regular as... Actually, it's later. It's more like 8.
Oh, okay.
8,
All right.
8:30.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, the traffic is just flowing. It's just flowing, business as usual. And 10 is busy, but 10 is big.
Mm-hmm.
And these are just one of these days where traffic is flowing. And it's like, it was just after... It must have been just a little after 8 as the sun was already going down.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's pretty much set by 8. A little past 8. And so I'm making it through, and it's like, wow, that's unfortunate. There's a huge fire.
Right.
So I go a few more miles. Now I'm passing La Cienega, which is a big cross street to 10 and everything, and it's like everything's normal.
Did your mind tell you when you saw the burning building, oh, this is because...
You don't know. Know. It's just a burning building.
Okay.
So your head doesn't grasp on everything. Remember, I'm listening to radio all
rock.
the time.
Right.
There are no smartphones. There's nothing. There are no alerts or anything.
No one broke into the FM rock and said, hey,
no,
get the fuck out of LA.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So,
okay.
I get all the way up to Washington Boulevard, which is a turnoff, because by then it's like, I see a few more fires. So what's going on? So, human curiosity says, go to the fire, right?
Jesus.
So, I know this area.
Did you go to the fire?
I went to the fire.
Sheldon.
I go off and, hey, I get to Culver City, and Culver City is where MGM, Lorimar, and all the film companies aren't. Hey, it's all peaceful, quiet, fine.
Right.
As a matter of fact, there is nothing but usual traffic, which is a lot, just normal people. As a matter of fact, I'm following a police car. And it's like, I'm going to head back towards the campus. That was my mistake. I'm going to head back towards this campus because it's like, that's, I've never seen a huge fire before. But,
right.
I've seen a few along the way. So what's going on? There's still no warning signs. And it's funny because, I get going on the back roads to go back to... Now I'm heading back to the campus on pretty much the residential roads, which are big too. And I go for a few miles, nothing. It's just normal.
But you wanted to keep going because you were curious about the fires?
Exactly.
Okay.
So, and at some point, the police car that I was following makes just a U-turn. He just makes a U-turn and heads back towards Culver City. So now Culver City is now like, it's one of the 110 divisions that comprise pretty much Los Angeles.
Right.
So I'm heading back towards this campus. And I remember getting up to the first of the larger fires. It's a Foot Locker, Foot Locker store, a standalone Foot Locker store.
Okay.
And it is just like almost fully consumed. The flames are just like 40 feet in the air. There's no roof left. And, you can see the logo. Oh, you know what it is because I used to pass it all the time. It's a Foot Locker. It's total burn. It's total loss. Total loss. Wow. Everything inside is total loss. Creepy thing, there's nobody around. Zero. There's
God.
Nobody around.
Wait, was there a fire truck there?
No.
Holy shit.
Nobody around. But there's no people. There are no people. There's there's nobody watching. There's nobody on the streets. As a matter of fact, I am the only person driving on this street. So, I don't make a U-turn. I keep heading towards, but the next time I get up to, now there's people. Now you realize.
Oh, Sheldon,
and
Jesus
the next,
Christ.
If you know what Los Angeles was all about, it was all about mini malls. Like, there were mini malls everywhere.
Okay.
It was kind of like a dichotomy of the city. Mini malls, every street corner. Mini malls. I get up to the next mini mall, per se. Mm-hmm. Now there's people. Now you can figure out, hey, what's going on? And it's like, this is rather odd. Everybody is in a very wild partying mood, per se. And now I'm actually behind a van, like a boogie van from the 70s. It had like windows in the back.
Right.
And I look over and there's a Shell station to my left. Now we're at the lights. We're at the intersection. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, okay, things are happening. As soon as I roll up, the van window, I'm watching like the van in front because I'm going to come up to its bumper.
Right.
All of a sudden, the glass in that rear window just blows away.
What the fuck?
It was like that one instant right there. What the fuck? And I look over to my left, and there's a guy in the Shell parking lot just waving this like long barreled revolver around, and he had just popped this van in front of me, glass out, and this van just peels away. Just peels away.
Yeah, I would.
And it's like
fuck.
And in that one moment right there, nobody had to tell you anything. It's like, it's a fucking riot.
Jesus.
It is a fucking riot, and I need to get home. That's the only thing you think of. And
Here, push this a little closer to you. That's fucking insane.
So it's like, now it's like, I don't even know what the lights are, but I'm going. So it's like, I can't make a U-turn to go back to where I was because I'm going to be in front of that gas station.
You don't know.
You want to get away from this.
You don't know what direction is safe. You don't know what's.
But I know the streets, and it's like your mind all of a sudden goes from sleepy suburbia to survival mode in an instant. And
like, this is not fucking around anymore. This is not I'm gonna go march. This is not but I'm wearing a pussy hat. Don't shoot out my window. This is real. This is
the moment that I was talking to you about, where it forms the memory of the most pivotal parts of your life.
Right.
And it's like, it is the time when you actually learn most about life in all its degrees in the shortest amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make I'm roaring through to the next intersection that I know is a major one. It's like La Cienega, back to La Cienega.
Okay.
La Brea, actually.
Okay.
And La Brea Avenue. Start going up La Brea Avenue. And I say, I know La Brea Avenue will once again cross 10 freeway. I just came off the 10 freeway.
And it's
safe. Totally safe.
Right.
And it is safe because it's all residential around.
This is
it's
not
all
Google
dark.
Maps time. This is no
there
MapQuest.
we had maps in a book.
Right.
You had the map that you had to flip through in the book.
Right.
But we already know these streets.
Yeah.
I mean, I know these streets.
Right.
I drive up. Everything's fine. Like, I'm impatient. I'm driving as fast as I can. I was driving a Mustang back then with tinted glass.
Nice.
Thank God. And, I head up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, traffic's backing up here at the lights. And it's like, it's not so good because the building on my left, the flames are at least like 50 or 60 feet in the air.
Jesus.
And, I come up to this scene. It's like, there's like a lot of people like running in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm coming up, it's like there's Pep Boys. You know what a Pep Boys is?
Yeah.
Auto parts.
Right.
And inside, it's like there's like maybe 500 or 600 people inside, and all you see is like everything like getting cleaned out.
Jesus.
And on the streets, there's guys carrying tires out. There's everything, and I'm taking this all in. Like these buildings on the left side of the street.
Right.
If you've been to LA, like all the businesses pretty much are protected with gates. Like gates, they actually physically lock the glass up with gates.
Right.
And there's a truck just backing up and bang, trying to break through these gates.
Fuck.
In this building, just like this. They don't care. And
that's a motherfucker. That guy had a Pep Boys, or had a Pep Boys franchise. That probably wasn't even a, you know what I mean? That's just some owner of a store decided to spend the money, decided to, he had nothing to do with Rodney King. He didn't fucking deserve that shit.
Well, absolutely.
I don't give a fuck. Oh, systemic fuck. Don't take people's shit. Don't beat people senseless. Stop breaking fucking... it's the only way. Shut the fuck up with the... God, right. That makes me angry.
It is. Anyway,
continue.
It gets actually even more iconic. It's because it's like I'm taking this all in 1 second.
Right.
And all of a sudden I realize there's somebody right fucking in front of me, like running across the road. So I slam on the brakes. And it's this big black chick. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I saw her... her teeth.
Wow.
Because she was smiling.
Whoa.
And this is a scene I'll never ever forget. She's in flip-flops. And under her left arm was her kid. She had her kid like here hanging off here. She's running in the middle of the street with a big smile on her face. She's having a time of her life. And in the other hand, she's carrying a car battery she just ripped off from Pep Boys. And I just about rolled over. I just about bang. I mean, it's like, can you imagine? It was like, at that time I didn't know what they were doing to like drivers. They were just pulling drivers out and beating them senseless,
right.
Shooting them, killing them.
Jesus.
So, I'm looking. And it's like there's people with small arms just walking around, like running around in the streets. Mm-hmm. And there's like, more than 500 people in that Pep Boy store. There's more than 1,000 on the street trying to get into that store. That store is, that short time was, you could see the empty shelves already and everything. So right. It's like, this scene is like, oh my God, if I don't get across this fucking intersection now, this could be the last thing you'll ever do. I mean, that's how serious that moment is. It's right. Like, it is dangerous out here. It is downright dangerous. People are getting hurt out here. And the one thing that you knew right away is like, there is no order. There's absolutely no order. It's like, you think that,
doesn't matter who you voted for.
What, I'm going to call the police. What the fuck are they going to do?
Jesus.
What the hell are they going to do?
Right.
Like, they are not there. And people don't realize this, police are not actually required to protect anybody. Where is it written in any law that they're actually required to protect you? It isn't.
Okay.
It isn't. People don't realize that. The libertards today, they don't realize that. And it's like, the funny thing about this is like, oh yeah, we have them to do this job, and you shouldn't do any of this. Like, if you're not going to watch out for yourself, you're not making it home. And unless you were in that situation, you would not know what it felt like, and you wouldn't have that experience to base your.
Did you have a gun at that point?
I had it safely stored at home in my apartment.
Fuck. God damn it.
That being said, it's like I knew, like, I mean, those were the longest times of my life. It's like I could see 10 freeway up ahead, and it's like I could see the short street I had to get through. It's like a gauntlet, and it's like you knew that if I could get to 10, I could my
get the fuck on there, go 70 miles per hour anywhere but here.
I knew that the freeway was safe. So if we can get over there and everything like that, most likely you could survive this. I mean, though that is exactly what I was thinking.
That's exactly what you were thinking. Yeah, most likely we could survive this if we get over there.
Yeah, and this is before, like, I didn't know what happened at Normandy, like at the flashpoint. I didn't know that they were like. What they were doing to, like, motorists that were going by and everything.
Okay,
like,
yeah, you didn't hear about Reginald Denny or anything. Yeah, but somewhere instinctually you knew this is not
that. Once that first shot took out that, because I'm very familiar with firearms too. It's like bang, and it's like that. Right away, that guy just blew out the window with a gun. Like, that's it.
Jesus.
They're like, if you're gonna shoot just blindly like that,
right?
That wasn't the first time my car got shot, by the way. My first week in L.A. when I drove up that same freeway 10 at 12 midnight after a study session, I heard a clank. It's like I didn't think much of it until I got home to the next day when I looked and it's like, my God, I think I've been shot by a 22 because I've grew up shooting 22s. I know what a 22 looks like.
Right.
Like a whole size, everything.
Right.
And it was kind of cavitated and everything like that. And, my welcome to L.A. at the time, 4 years prior to that, was, having to go get a police report from CHP. And CHP officers, like, trying to dismiss it. It's probably a slingshot bearing or everything. She comes out to write the report so I can get to, file it and everything. And then it's like, she takes a look and she goes, I think you're right. She calls another guy out and everything, and the guy just calmly says, hey, this happens all the time. The only time that you hear about it is when somebody gets hurt.
Right.
And it's got to be a non-black person.
What do you mean by that? That's what the cop said?
Yeah. He told me straight up. And that was my welcome to L.A., like 4 years prior to that.
Because did he give you any context? Did he say because it happens so often to black people?
All the time. It happens all the time. And it's like, to say that, that's what, if you look at the history, always look at the history.
Right.
Things didn't show up like this yesterday.
Right.
The history of it is, I can understand the frustrations of these, a group of people. Can you imagine? It's like, hey, they're basically saying, hey, your life isn't worth much.
Right.
And it's like, we want you to kill each other off because it's just, less, or, basically you're saying, hey, your life isn't worth as much or anything.
Right.
But until you're in that situation, you realize it's like all your laws and your security that you've set up is a facade.
Your
it
beliefs,
really is.
Your beliefs, your values, who you voted for. Right.
What is that all going to mean if you can't even make it home? I can't even make it across the street to get onto the freeway. So anyways, I get home and it's...
So you made it across there, you got onto 10,
the biggest I can remember taking that sigh of relief.
Jesus.
As a matter of fact, I know that was the only time in my adult life where I ever felt scared. Because it was scared that it's like, my foot on the clutch was just shaking. It's just like, I didn't even know if I can get across the street alive in one piece. It's just too dangerous out here. There's just anarchy out here,
Right.
This is my hood, and I understand being street and everything like that, but it's not really my hood per se.
Oh, no.
So, and you realize that all in a shot, and you realize, like, life is very, very cheap, and you don't have to, and this is the streets of America, and I've been all around this world, like in places like Vietnam and everything like that, to tell you exactly, life is very, very cheap outside of, like, your microcosm of thinking here of, everything is such a utopia paradise. It is not.
Right.
And the fine line between, and this is what I keep getting at is the fine line between, getting caught up in like, oh, my rights and everything. You don't have any. Let's just take this a little further. It's like I love like the libertarian argument. It's like, oh, everything is equal. It's like, well, if everything was equal, you'd better look at like the planets you live on as what happens in the celestial world of planets. Planets swallow other planets, and they're destroyed as we speak all the time. The bigger planet is killing the small planet all the time. And
it's
what are you going to do?
The sun is absorbing. Yeah.
Are you going to stand up there and say, oh, this isn't fair? Well, nothing's fucking fair.
On a smaller scale, too. I mean, the same people who... And I get it. We are different than an animal, but ultimately we are animals. And the same people who say it's completely natural for a shark to fucking murder... cold-blooded a fucking seal that you think is really cute and wonderful. The same people who say that's natural and normal and blah, 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 are the same people who don't want us. Like, they say, oh, we're just evolution, we're just animals. But then when we act like animals, they're surprised and shocked. Exactly. They're like, how could you act like an animal just on the smallest scale of being of looking at my breasts? You looked at my cleavage while I was wearing a shirt that accentuated my cleavage. How dare you act like an animal? But we're just animals because we're just evolution, and it's just the fucking insanity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but this topic isn't going to be has been debated forever, and
right.
It's like, we're talking about it,
right?
But you're realistic. Nothing will change.
No, and that's okay.
And the thing is, but at the same time, it's like we're on our soapbox now,
right?
And it's like it's okay that nothing will change.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I absolutely fucking agree.
I'm not going to fuel these people thinking that I'm going to be a part of their change.
Correct.
That for the mere fact that all change is good, because it is not.
And on that topic. And then I want to take a quick break because I got a urine and it's cold, and I don't know if you're down to stick around for a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
We're only getting started.
Okay. Just on that topic. Wait, damn it! What did you say? You said you were saying.
Well, we're all talking about the.
That nothing changes. I think we're gonna have this conversation, and we and I put it up, and I get the reactions that I get, and then there's another podcast 5 seconds later that's going to say the exact opposite, and fuck those those cisgender males and all that stuff, and that's fine, as long as we don't shut down the other people for trying to say those things. As long as Twitter stops doing the shadow banning that they're doing, and YouTube stop doing the demonetization of other people's fucking opinions, and just let it happen. Like, I keep hearing about this white supremacist guy. What's his fucking name? I can't remember his fucking name right now. It's not Duke. It's some other dude. And I just, Richard Spencer. Richard Spencer is a devil. And I'm like, I haven't even heard a thing about him. And so the other day I started listening to him, and I'm like, yeah, he's a douche. Like, he's kind of seems like this baby, emotionally childish, just fucking wet noodle, fratty, kind of douchey guy. But I don't see him as Satan. I see him as kind of like more pathetic than anything. But I would not have been able to find out that he's harmless if I hadn't listened to him. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Putting him behind this, no, you shouldn't, and we need to take his stuff down because he's saying things that are gonna, like, I'm not easily influenced. I'm not a baby.
Exactly.
Let me hear what the fuck the opinion is, and then I'll make my own goddamn decision. And I was able to make my decision just going, yeah, I mean, I kind of understand, like, he wants this, or I kind of understand, like, I can get versions of that on a different scale. Like, I can get not being... and please go listen to Richard Spencer on your own, because I may be butchering it, but like, I can understand not wanting to feel guilty all the time just for being the skin color that you are.
Sure.
And I do believe that white men right now are supposed to feel guilty at all times forever. And I do think that's bullshit. At the same time, he's just kind of pathetic. But I wouldn't have been able to find that out and how harmless and kind of, dumb and fratty and pathetic he is if I hadn't listened to him. If I had just put it behind the curtain, now it makes it ooh, I want to find out it makes it almost more, attractive.
Well, we all want what we can't have.
Right.
And would be nice if anything would come across that. See, I'm ultra liberal in that way because I'm always giving people the benefit of the
doubt.
The doubt, say, feeling or hoping that there's intelligence out there.
Mm-hmm.
That you can actually make up your own mind.
Right.
That you don't have to be brainwashed.
Right.
By something along to say that this is what it is or this is not what it is. What's wrong with actually, and this is where, coming back to my colleague that I highly respect, and I differ because she's pretty much, she's not, she doesn't have the time or the bandwidth to look at
right
a lot of these issues in depth.
And the
thing is that, and it's not because she doesn't want to,
right.
And it's not because, she isn't capable of.
Right.
But what it is life is designed to keep these people as routinely engaged as possible with everyday life.
Right.
And that the politicians they seize and the people that be it they understand that behavior and they seize on that opportunity to push their agenda
right.
to those masses that are pretty much engrossed in everyday life, just living every day and don't have the time. Like what you look at technological advances. You look at the days and you've heard the story of what Newton did to define gravity and physics. Kind of like the birth of physics. What was he doing? Legend says, and it's only a legend, of course, but he was sitting around under a tree.
Oh, and the apple fell, right.
Apple hit him in the head. Okay, and he was thinking about why did it hit him in the head. Nowadays, it's who has time to sit there and sit under a tree anymore?
Yeah. I guess that could be that modern, the modern, the back then equivalent of watching Netflix.
What,
right?
You're watching somebody's process Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Versus something naturally happening, in your environment that you actually question to aspire to explain.
Right.
Some of the I've been really fortunate.
I gotta
okay,
pause.
Yeah,
I'm gonna die. All right, we're gonna take a quick pause. I don't know if I might insert something or not. Pause. Okay. So we're back on. I guess the vent was super open, and that's why it was so damn cold, and I was dying. But
so do you know what the history of a podcast is?
Oh God!
When you said we're going to be on a podcast,
right?
What is a podcast?
I don't know.
What
do you
what's
mean?
really funny is you could go to the archaic way of looking things up, like Webster's Dictionary, and I can guarantee you any printed versions of Webster's Dictionary has no entry for a podcast.
No. Did you research this beforehand?
Of course, it was when I was.
You're such a smart, that type of brained man. I put no notes. I was just ready to. I mean, which I think has a benefit to it as well. But that's interesting. I like that you put notes in.
Well, I remember some of the more experiences in your life, and I think you're pretty much who you are is a culmination of all your experiences. So,
right.
That being said, I mean, on the jovial things, it's I've been a best man probably about 4 times or so.
Really?
But also, I've also been a pallbearer about 4 times.
Wow.
So, when you're at a funeral, it's I was asked to do a eulogy once, and it's
wow.
Well, what is a eulogy? So, at the time, it's to eulogize somebody is to honor somebody. And how do I know that? I have to go to the dictionary and look it up. So.
Right.
So it's hey, I'm really honored to be on Pete's podcast. Well,
right.
what exactly is a podcast? So it's
Well, I think we're doing it whether we like it or not, or whether they like it or not. I think we're doing it.
Description of actually a podcast actually came from broadcast and the fact that the first ones actually were done on like iPods per se. And I think the first one dates back to like only 2004. So this is way post 2K.
Right.
So it's just the clicky terms.
Right.
So thus we're doing this podcast now. So.
And if you asked like, am I in here every day? No. I mean, if it takes off and people really like it, and it becomes financially viable, then sure, I'll do this. I'll be fucking Joe Rogan. I don't care. You know what I mean? I'll come here and just talk with people I enjoy talking to, and support myself that way financially. But at the moment, it's music and working at a restaurant, and this is just kind of a passion thing because I like to have conversations with people, and I love listening to podcasts, and I love that's what this is, and ultimately, to use it for promotional at the very least would benefit me financially, but who knows what the hell is going to happen from it. I know that I'm interested, and I know that I have good ideas, and I know that people seem to want to listen to me squawk. So here I am.
Okay, so here we are. We're gonna climb back on our soapboxes and go at it.
Yes, exactly. I was thinking something when I was urinating. It was a good one, by the way. I thought I needed to fart, but I didn't. Which is kind of sad. But I can't remember what I was thinking, but it definitely. I think it goes. What I was thinking was, interesting. By the way, look at this. Los Angeles Raiders. Yeah. Anyway, what I was thinking was, I think part of the big gripe and the divisiveness, which a lot of people are making it out to be a bigger deal, but I think part of the divisiveness is this idea of intent. Which I think is always, we don't know what other people are thinking. We just look at their actions and we attach an intent to it. But I think ultimately we're all doing the best we can with what we have. Even if it's real bad, we're all doing the best we can with what we have mentally, financially, experientially, blah, 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 blah. But to immediately equate, immediately demonize the other side is the problem, or it's one of the problems. And I don't think that even people I wildly disagree with, that they're the devil. They may be uninformed. They may be informed only from their experience. I may be uninformed. I may be, completely wrong on it. And that's why you can love and or respect and or work with and or whatever with someone who you disagree with. Like you were saying, you have that colleague who you disagree with, who you respect and have worked with and will continue to be friends with, and that's so important to fucking point out, because this isn't a big deal. Trump is not a big deal. These people, it's not a big fucking goddamn deal. And every time I look on social media, it's a big fucking.
No, it's not a big deal.
You remember Bill Hicks?
It's not a big deal. It's like, it's amazing. But I'm in a very, very similar situation. My best friend, and I'm happy to say that he is my best friend. My grandpa once said, you get to the end of your life, and if you can say that you had one friend, I think you've done very, very well.
Oh, that's nice.
I mean, that's a description of saying, hey, like, you can have many acquaintances, and I have a lot of acquaintances, but friends I have very few of. But
sure.
When people say, how many friends do you have? It's like, I have very few friends, but I can safely say the ones I have are very good.
Right.
That being said, he's a libtard.
Most people call it libtard, not libtard. I think
I'm going to call it a
maybe
libtard.
It's that Canadian syrup you put on it.
It's the twist of it.
Nevertheless, he's a libtard. Okay,
it's like, he is my best friend and everything like that, but you can clearly see the defining lines. This is very, very interesting, because when we discuss things, there's a point where he will not listen to anything further. And, I see what it is. It's the programming from his parents, actually, that actually ultimately like kind of ring through that he can't actually pass. And I always like apply what I say to myself too. And I'm looking, it's like I'm asking myself the exact same questions you're asking yourself.
Right.
Am I not informed? Is there something I'm not seeing? And I don't want to generalize, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, I was like an engineer by profession and career.
Okay.
And when you look at what the crux of that means is, they're paying me for solutions. And what am I doing? It's like I'm making discriminating decisions every single moment of the day.
You have to judge and discriminate.
I cannot say that approach A is equal to approach B because they are not.
Okay.
It's like saying I need to solve this problem. I just can't take anything out of the alphabet and they will all get there.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps they will, but in reality they will not.
Right.
So the whole practice of engineering, of taking raw materials and making life better for all of us, is pretty much the ultimate goal, is making life better for all of us.
Right.
And all these ways of accomplishing that are not equal, and they never will be.
Right.
That being said and everything like that, like, I'm looking at myself not all the time reevaluating. Is there something I'm not seeing? So, my best friend and I, we have these conversations because we're polar opposite on a lot of ways we feel.
Right.
And even though I can explain myself to the nth degree, the n plus 1 degree reverts back to what he was originally trained for. And that's a very interesting behavioral pattern that I do recognize. And it doesn't annoy me or anything like that. Those are just one of those things that I recognize as part of like what human nature is. And what politicians do, that's very interesting, like how people shape social issues, is they're masters at manipulating that known behavior pattern. And I should know because in my family, my first cousin is a bona fide politician in Canada.
Ooh. Trudeau? No.
I have watched this guy.
My family member, she told me to ask you about Trudeau. What your opinions are on him. Anyway, continue.
Well, I was around when Trudeau, his father, actually was running the country in his position. But, that being said, I'm not a big fan of politicians in general. Politicians meaning you've made a fucking career of being a politician.
Right.
I mean...
So you have to say the things that you said. You are trained from the gate. You have to be this extremist up until one of the many examples. You have to be an extremist all the way up until the election. You get elected, and then you can do the things that you already were going to do anyway. You have to put on a public persona and a private persona very different. You have to play the game correctly. And I would like to say that that being said, I've watched my cousin since we were children. Mm-hmm. He was the ideal politician. Why? Because he didn't have a shy bone in his body. He was out meeting customers of his father's small family grocery store when he was 2 years old. He wanted to sit on the till and say hi to all the customers that came by. Right.
Very personable, very charismatic, extremely, extremely charismatic.
Right.
When my sister got married for a second time, we all did speeches. I felt very insecure because it's like, hey, I work in tech. I didn't pass.
You're not a speech guy. You're not front line. You're back line. That's
exactly. Exactly. However, I will never discredit what accomplishment means either. It's like, yes, his presentation was flawless.
Right.
And what we learned after my mom died actually was my cousin is a politician for the following reasons.
For all the wrong reasons?
No, for the following reasons that they are number one. When you talk about like everybody said, hey, he was charismatic. Yeah, well, charisma and intelligence is not even related.
Right.
what I learned all this time was my cousin is a master at charisma. When I look, it's like when I grew up with this guy, it was so fun to be with because we would go to a bar and he would pick up all the waitresses and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. And then you could get run off or whatever. You could get.
No, they're not good at sharing.
Oh,
they're
no.
not good at sharing. Even though he's my first cousin, he was not good at sharing.
What if those waitresses had friends there? You could. Ooh! Oh, look at that!
Look at that!
I broke it.
You're breaking all the stands. You broke all the stands in our act, and you're breaking the stands.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sheldon, and I'm sorry the person who I. All right. I'm not gonna. There we go.
Okay, well,
God, what
that
an
being said,
man.
it's like I can say this because it's like I have direct experience.
Right.
Everybody says, "Oh, well, like I like such and such a politician." Well, why do you? Do you actually know him?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know him? Mm-hmm. Did you know him because you met him somewhere? Mm-hmm. Did you just shake his hand? Mm-hmm. Or did you have to grow up with him?
Right.
Did you actually grow up with that person to watch them grow and make decisions in life and everything?
Right.
It was very, very interesting. It was like what my cousin is highly charismatic. I'll give him that.
Sure.
He's bright enough to know how to regurgitate ideas.
Right.
And the thing is like his master is like anything else. It's like I can take these ideas and I can present them as nobody's ever... It's like a good songwriter. I'm going to take this motif. I'm going to present it in a way that nobody's ever heard before.
Right.
We're all playing with the same chords, chord progressions, blues scales and everything. Mm-hmm. How come that we're making all these new songs all the time?
Right.
We're clever magicians
right.
at being a mastery of disguise in many, many ways.
Sure.
And that's my cousin pretty much in a nutshell.
Right.
My auntie said, "Did you vote for your cousin?" During that election, and I thought about it, and I said, "No, I did not." And she was appalled.
Nice.
Why did you not support? All my cousins. What? You had a chance to. You did not. It's like, think of it this way. He is the health minister of Alberta. I mean, if you could piece this together, you could figure out who this actually guy is.
I guess we could also figure out who you are through it.
Sure,
if anyone gives a fucking... There's probably only going to be like 5 people who listen to this. But I'm
not going to make it like... I'm just not going to be blatantly...
Right.
But
no
anyways,
addresses.
It's like, did you support your cousin in that last election? I mean, I didn't even know why they even asked, because it's like they would all assumed, yeah, it's a family. You're going to vote for... you're going to vote for him. It's like, right. I did not.
Right.
And they were... Why? Well, they want to know why, right? And it's like, think of it this way. He's the health minister. Do I really want him making health decisions for me in the condition he's in? Because I've watched him. I mean, he's huge and everything like that. Even here he is. He's the pillar. He's supposed to be representing like the health portfolio, which is a large responsibility.
Sure.
And it's the same. It's like, do you want him when he took the energy portfolio?
Well,
he's selling fucking dirty oil, okay?
Right.
I mean, that's what
you don't agree with him on stuff, and that's a good enough reason to
It's not that I don't agree. It's like, think about this. Do I need somebody who can't even look after themselves making decisions for me? Is that what I really want?
Right.
Think about that.
Right.
And like, yeah, I mean, it's like, to understand everything that goes on with health means that you have to think and research and do your own thinking. That's all I ever encourage. Like, will you, as a person,
right, do
your own thinking? Because if you did your own thinking, you wouldn't get caught up in all this bullshit that's going on.
I think this goes back to I might be just deciding to go on a rant without even like whatever, but I think it applies. I don't believe that you are a better person automatically because you are black or because you are a woman or because you are trans. I do not think you are morally superior or inferior based on your identity.
Exactly.
And I think that applies there. You know what I mean? Like, well, he's my cousin, so you should automatically vote for him. Well, no. Like, I see each person or what their platform is and what their idea, I see that as what the reasons why are. that totally butchered that sentence, as the reasons to vote or not vote for that person. And that includes Trump as an example.
Exactly.
Oh, he's a white man. Like, yeah, okay, put it aside. Like, that's why that whole, like, when I was living in, where the fuck was I? I was living in Portland at the time, and I was with a woman I hated. Great reason to be in a relationship. That was the time of the first Obama primary, and it was Obama versus Hillary the first time. And I remember the same thing, when Hillary lost and Obama won the primary. Now she literally said, it's because America hates women more than they hate
bullshit.
black men. You
Bullshit.
fucking childish
Bullshit.
shit. Fucking goddamn it. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you have thought that I was just please unfollow me, please. But like that idea. Okay, so then we had a black guy president, and then we had if it had been Hillary who won that primary, there would have been people who said it's because America hates black people more than, like,
absolutely.
It's not based on fucking identity, and that's childish.
Exactly.
And I think you're right in being. You said I'm ultimately liberal on that.
I'm giving people
the benefit of the doubt that they're smart enough.
Empowering people
right.
to sit there and say, everybody has a brain,
right?
And I get it that not everybody
uses
can think in the same capacities.
Sure.
I agree. I'm the first to stand up there. Look, I did okay in math and sciences.
Mm-hmm.
I know lots of people who did not.
Right.
And it's like, it's a good reason why they are not, and they're far better doing what they're doing than not saying that, everybody like can go in maths and sciences. No.
Right.
And it's like, like everybody should actually even go down this route.
Right.
Because everybody's equal, because they're not.
That's we need more women in STEM. Like, do we? Are you just going to open it up and just throw any women in there? Because that's like saying, like, I like older women. I mean, I do. Sure.
Like, I was around before they conned the word MILF. Like, I really was. But the big difference is,
I do like a MILF, dude. I do like a
MILF is. I mean, that is just exceptional. However,
such good girls.
what
They're
I'm
such
saying,
fucking good girls.
But what I'm saying,
yes, sir.
A MILF is not just the fact that it's a female that's old,
right,
or older.
Okay.
It has. It is just
one
small factor. I mean,
there's three other letters. I like to fuck, right? So you have to.
There's many qualities that go along.
Right. That's true. I have when surfing porn and looking under the category of MILF, I have seen a lot of like, ugh, I don't want to.
Yeah,
just because she has a kid, that means that she should be in porn.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, you can't come up with that argument conveniently and say, well, we all hate women because we didn't vote for her, or we didn't vote for him because we're against black people.
Right.
Complete bullshit. Complete bullshit. And stop hiding behind it, because if you were real and you were actually knew what you were doing, you wouldn't have to fucking hide. Is what I'm saying. Like, just be real. You can't. It's like going like to a movie, and like we've all done this before. It's like you go to a movie and people say, "Did you like the movie?" Say, "Yeah, I liked the movie," and end it at that. You can't just go to a movie and say, "Yeah, I liked the movie," or "I didn't like the movie." I liked the movie because it did this.
Right.
Its theme was this.
Right.
The framing was exceptional.
Right.
The soundtrack was like was gripping or awe-inspiring.
You have to think.
There's a reason for that, and it's like what I'm saying is like everybody should be empowered to think.
Sure.
And have that for themselves, not be spoon-fed to say, and just blindly follow a movement for the sake of, like, well, that's like saying, like, I like all older women, they're all MILFs. That's bullshit.
Right.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Hang on. We had a spill.
Uh-oh.
Am I still recording? Hang on. Did it get on the... No, it didn't really get on the...
No, but let's clean
it. Yay!
Podcasts are supposed to be boring, not having like. Oh, there goes
No, I had my cap on mine. I was a good podcast host.
Should we pause it for a brief?
Sure. All right, we'll pause it.
We'll do the Howard Stern thing.
Because we have to kill Sheldon.
Yeah. Topics before.
Yeah. Okay. All right, everything's all right. We survived. The laptop is okay. Oh, got a little bit. No, that's it. Yeah, she's all right. Hang on. Ah! Yeah, so we're in deep in this conversation, but I don't think there's any reason why. I would love to have you back as often as you'd like. I did mention Joe Rogan earlier, and I like that format. I don't like a whole lot of editing and a whole lot of music, and just let it run, and or like Craig Ferguson as an example. Remember his did you ever see?
Yes.
He would when he would interview somebody, he would literally, it was symbolic, but he would take the cards that had the questions and just rip them up right there and just have a conversation.
Howard Stern.
Yeah.
Howard Stern.
I loved Howard Stern, man. I really did.
Spontaneous.
Did you ever watch Private Parts?
I did. Absolutely.
I think it was I was like 12 or 13 maybe when I saw Private Parts, and I don't think I had been in contact with Howard Stern at all, maybe through E. His show used to be on E. But that was, I'm 13. I don't have access to porn. This was 2000, so that was the porn, when they showed Private Parts, and there was some blur over the nipples or whatever, but that was wow, it was really and that you could be rebellious and that you could be you could do whatever you wanted.
You see, why do we need censorship as artists and everything? Do we need censorship at all? I mean, it's
that's an interesting question,
because censorship, it all kind of comes together. It's like saying, I'm trying to empower somebody to use their brain to their potential to think, and it's everybody else is trying to pretty much filter it for them, and that's censorship.
Yeah, it is. It is censorship. I don't think it's the end of the world, depending on the platform. Here's what I mean by that. I guess so. There's a lot of people on Instagram that free the nipple, which is just a fucking insane, stupid
free
idea.
The nipple.
Free the nipple. Have you seen this?
No.
So free the nipple is these women want to be able to post pictures of the nipple without any blurring on Instagram and or walk around without covering. Men can do it. Why can't it? Couple of reasons. There is a difference between male nipples and female nipples. First things first. And we all know it naturally. And if you don't know it, you're a liar. Also, there are women who greatly benefit. They want the benefits of having nipples and getting the attention, but they do not want the bad parts of it. First thing, that's one part of it. But the other thing is, I don't think it's the end of the world to have Instagram block out nipples. Just go to a different app, baby. Twitter takes you can post your nipples all over Twitter.
Exactly.
You can post fucking full on, and I follow some good girls on Twitter. You can post whatever you want there. It doesn't have to be on every platform. Everything goes because of systemic bias. No, there's just some things that I guess so. As far as that type of censorship, it's all right.
Well, that being said, the same thing, I guess, in my experience is there's nothing after living in LA and everything. It's nothing surprises me anything anymore.
Okay.
Somebody could be just totally naked,
right?
And it's my first thought isn't, oh my god, they're naked or something. It's hardly noticed.
Right. Have you ever? What's weird too? There's been once or twice where a crazy homeless person is naked, and there's once I think she was actually kind of I was a bit attracted to her in the moment.
That's what we do.
It wasn't
think
on
about
purpose.
That. Your brain, your whole brain has been wired.
It was
for the sake of this,
right?
Of this and everybody's trying to cap it today for being politically correct.
Right.
It's like, no.
Right. My whole brain was wired to like, ooh, free titty. Like, ooh, free titty. Like
Exactly.
that's all. It was just like
Exactly.
it's not even a conscious thought. And yeah,
And
it just sucks.
by all means, it's harmless. It's natural.
Yeah.
Those are natural thoughts. Some of the emasculation is atrocious.
Yeah. And that's really harmful, in my opinion, because it also comes from a place of dishonesty. I think, and I've talked a lot about with women. There's one in particular who would hate it if I shared her name, or she's also one of those backline people. She doesn't want to be in the limelight at all. But like, we have had countless conversations, and she's a MILF, and she's 40 something, and but she already had the kids and been married, and like she's got the experience, and we've had this conversation where like she's not attracted to men who are bitches. She's not attracted to men who aren't masculine. Isn't that strange? You know what I mean?
Who are not masculine, or men?
Right. She's attracted to men who are masculine. She's attracted to men who don't. Oh, you're so beautiful, and whatever you say, baby, and like that baby man. And in my opinion, I find that whatever you say is also dishonest.
Oh, the pussy whipped guys.
The pussy whipped guys.
Well, then again, that's back to our discussion about, like I said, there were guys, but I didn't really mean there were guys.
Exactly.
There were people, and they just
who had a penis,
or maybe they did.
Or maybe they did, right? But that idea of well, I just those nice guys, I don't think it's honest. I think it's dishonest, and I don't think it's conscious dishonesty. But I think those men, they act bitchy because they think that's what they're supposed to, like a bitch, like a whatever, like
yeah
you know what I mean, like where they're just being dishonest about what they want. They
maybe sometimes they don't know what they want. Maybe they're being brainwashed or something like that.
Yeah, that's why absolutely. That's what we're saying. That same
that
thing.
Like in the animal kingdom, we're back to being animals again, and procreation and everything like that. Mm-hmm. That's what we're wired to do. Yeah. Accept it.
Right. And there are exceptions, of course. Of course there are exceptions. There are some women who love to dominate a man, and that's just natural and but on the whole, from the women, when you get them alone, when you get them away from the political answer they're supposed to have, what does your pussy tell you that you're attracted to? Not what does your mind tell you you're attracted to. What does your pussy tell you attracted to? All of a sudden, I don't know why I keep finding these bad boys. Because you're fucking attracted to bad boys. Not because you hate yourself. No, it's because you're attracted. There's an element in that. And there's...
find, like,
and going the opposite direction into the nice boy pool is not the solution. I'm not saying go for somebody who's abusive, but a little bit. There's aspects of bad boy that are attractive and should be used.
Those are the natural gender type roles.
Right.
As designed per se.
Right. And that's okay. And there are exceptions in rock and roll if there are exceptions. Go for it. Come on, dude. Feel free to fucking kiss some girl's heels and, and worship her feet and all that. Rock and roll, whatever. But, be honest.
I've been really blessed with some of the most wonderfully bright and intelligent women who just happen to be beautiful at the same time, too.
Right.
That have crossed my life.
Sure.
Some of them are my eye doctor. I've had this ongoing thing with my eye doctor for the last almost 18 years. Nice. And the reason being is she's happily married and she has kids and everything like that. But who can say that they go to their eye doctor and the first thing they say is, what do you say? Hi, doctor, blah, 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 right? Or whatever it is.
Right.
I call her hot stuff.
Right.
And she loves it.
Right.
She just does. She just knows that if she was in a different part of her life,
correct,
and same as me,
correct,
things would be different.
Right.
And we all respect that.
Right. And that's okay to acknowledge. And I get See, I get the movement towards the opposite because we were pretty rapey for a long time, and we still can get a little rapey. I get it. You know what I mean? Sometimes a lot. And the extremities of those characteristics of man should be pulled back, just like the extremities of everything should. We're all trying to find a middle ground,
a decency of respect,
right? And a listening to you and all that stuff, right? Absolutely.
But humans are humans, and we are not perfect.
Right, but the pendulum, but swinging the completely opposite direction where we're saying that there's not even a difference between men and women is not the fucking solution. It's dishonest.
You know what the pendulum is? The pendulum is what we call in the engineering world as bang bang engineering. And you know what that means?
No.
Okay, so you're going to build a widget. Say you're going to build a widget.
Okay, I'm going to build a widget.
You're going to build a widget, and you start somewhere with a prototype. Okay. If you're a good engineer, what are you going to do? You're actually going to design that with engineering practices. That means you have to use your ability and your skills and your experiences to start at a point in a product life cycle in which you know you can improve upon in a very few iterations. That is the goal of building a successful widget in the market.
You make it slowly. You try one thing out and try each thing as it comes. Is that what you mean? Or what do you mean?
Yeah, basically. So we're going to talk about what everybody has today, a smartphone.
Right.
So I was in the world which came up with all these smartphones and
right.
everything. We were building cell phones first and everything,
mm-hmm.
and we came to this. And it's like, when you look at the development of this, how do you think that happens? They take all the experiences, your lead designers and everything, take all their experiences and their knowledge on materials
mm-hmm.
and the sciences and what's available in technology at the time, including everything down to battery management and what's feasible. And they actually make a prototype with their best ability in using the skills that they have.
Right.
From that, they make one iteration. From that iteration, they're trying to perfect all the things that they made mistakes with, or bugs that came along. Software is the same. You design a piece of software, you're going to constantly debug the issues that have, because your goal is what ultimately is your goal? A better, more refined product, correct?
Sure.
So there are companies that start with something that they you could approach this a different way. It's like, okay, well, I designed this widget by taking it like the world of the design is the dartboard, and I just threw a dart and I started here. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to improve this. So I'm going to jump over here, just try something. And then did it get better? Did it get worse? Kind of thing. And that's what we call bang bang engineering. That's what pendulum is about, right? So we're going from one extreme to the other in hopes of blindly coming to some middle ground,
which alienates people who, the reality is like
stupid way of doing anything. That's basically what I'm saying.
And a lot of these women, like, I get that you've been hurt or you don't want to be setting yourself up to be an abusive something or other, but that doesn't mean, like, so I get where you're coming from, but you're not happy with a bitch of a dude. Like, every woman that I've kind of come across, and maybe that's just because I attract dirty little subs, but like every woman who I come across where I actually have a conversation about it, they're not attracted to nice guys. Kind, sure. Warm, sure. Smart, all that. Yeah, absolutely. They can be skinny, they can be big, they can be whatever. But you're not attracted to nice, where you're just like, hey, where do you want to go? On a date level. I can't tell you, like, how many times, I guess I can, that's an exaggeration. But, like, there's been times where, like, women will say, I don't want to decide where to go. Be a fucking man. Like, just, you bring me out. Take me where you're auditioning for the woman, you know what I mean? And that's okay. It sucks in a lot of different ways because you guys know when we're getting laid and we don't. But you're like, that's you're not attracted to what you're not attracted to, and there is a middle ground. And honestly, the part of the reason why I like older women in some ways is that they do often already understand that. Especially
Absolutely.
if they have kids,
comfortable with where they are and where they've been.
They don't and not just that, but there is some sort of I don't know if it's conscious or not, but like there is I'm sure a bit of has to do with like the morbidity of like getting older and realizing, okay, this is the only life I have. Am I going to live? Are my standards going to be what these other women in public eye are telling me to believe? Are they going to be what this politician says I'm supposed to? Or is it just going to be, you know what? I'm going to be honest with my own body. I like a mean motherfucker. You know what I mean? Who's kind, but I like a, you know, am I going to, you know, live? I mean, if this is actually the only life I have.
And I want to encourage them to pursue what I think is what makes a rich life is a plethora of experiences. To know what
you're saying, be a slut. No, what are you saying?
Are we sluts or not? I mean,
I am.
You know, I certainly am, and you know what? I love it. Mm-hmm. You know, it served me very, very, very well through my whole life and everything. In terms of like, hey, I feel balanced. I'm not questioning like or pondering anything. I don't want. You know, life is very, very fragile. You know, going back to that LA experience, it's like life is very, very fragile. Right. Going to any parts of the world and everything, you will realize how cheap life really is. Human life, whatever.
Right.
And it's like, I don't ever want to be at that gate or that threshold saying, I regret not doing this, or I wonder what this is and I never got a chance to, or I did have that chance, and I just sat on the starting gate and thought about it.
Right.
Okay, well, you can think all you want and everything like that. I never ever wanted that to happen. So it's like, I think everybody should be, you know, empowered to, you know, like focus on experiencing those experiences that pretty much you ponder about.
Right.
And everybody has different things they ponder about.
Right.
That being said, they shouldn't be bent over all these rules that, you know, back to the crux of our things is like, you know, like rules are for fools.
Right.
Because do you really need these rules, or can you think about do I need to tell you what you like and what you don't want?
Right.
Like, you know,
can I tell you what you're allowed to listen to or not allowed to listen to?
Exactly. Or how we should behave, or you know, like right down to the T and everything like that, without individuality. Or
I think, like you're saying, I think it does. But I mean, that's part of the, I guess, and I don't like to label myself, but I'm more libertarian than I am really anything in one of the ways is as long as you're not hurting people.
Exactly.
Be a slut as long as you're being honest about it. You know what I mean? Be, you know, feel free to smoke pot as long as you're not doing it in the fucking same goddamn, you know, I don't like it when motherfuckers are smoking just like at a concert indoors, because you're just a fucking selfish. You're a selfish ass cunt.
I was at
you're
a
just
Foreigner
a fucking
concert, and it was like
douchebag.
we were outside,
right? And you could still smell it way
awful.
too much. Right? Exactly. You're ruining other people's anyway.
But whatever.
But maybe that's a bad example. But like, feel free to get high on whatever, as long as it's not affecting other people's lives. Do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Yeah. I like to think of this like maybe this is the same thing. It's like I kind of want to think that everybody is capable of being responsible. Right. And maybe this is where I'm wrong. But, you know, like, if that were the case, if everybody is actually truly responsible, I would say, I think you should be able to own a Polaris missile in your backyard. Everybody, so as long as you don't misuse it.
Well, what would be the good use of a Polaris missile? I don't even know what the fuck that is. Is that like a firework?
You should be able to have like a nuclear tip ICBM if that's what you want.
Beautiful.
So as long as you don't misuse it. Right. You know, and the definition of misusing it is like, and there's lots of gray areas obviously and everything like that. But I mean, I guess that is a very ultra liberal way of thinking.
Is it though?
That, is it, or is it?
Because I've heard this before. Jordan Peterson is someone I listen to a lot. He says, and people define him as more of a classic liberal. Is that what a classic liberal is? Because the definition got so fucking raped and twisted into something else. But apparently that's what a classic liberal is someone who is more kind of libertarian as long as you're not affecting other people.
Yeah, you know, and you know, I mean. But I can tell you one thing. It's like I've never been even closely labeled as a libtard. I can tell you that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't mind. Because anyway, I don't know what it was in the 80s and 90s, like we were saying, where a lot of people were trying to, like, super Christian and super this and super whatever and more extreme.
Well, I think
But,
there's
like,
various motivations. I think people, like, use, like, religions as a vehicle of control.
Right.
Think about what religions were way before, like, in time. What better way to be able to control masses of people?
Right.
If you couldn't actually physically watch over them.
Right.
You did religion.
Right.
Religions were basically set up that way. I know that rubs a lot of people's toes, but going back to the argument between my best friend and I, why we never agree on anything, we agree to disagree, because ultimately, no matter how much logic you present to them, they're referring back to something.
It's their experience, right? That they already are, or the programming or whatever you want to call it.
From an early time. And, like a lot of the factions of religion are the same way.
And I think atheism has become a religion.
Yes.
And it's a big one. Yes. And they're not willing to laugh at their own shit. I mean, sometimes.
Yes.
But a lot of times it's like, that old joke, like, the main things, a CrossFit, a vegan, and an atheist, they'll let you know within a couple of sentences, oh, I'm an atheist. They just have to. But I don't care what you believe.
They're pressing their agenda. And it was like, it's all the same here. I mean, I love the city. I went to a Garbage concert. There was a band called Garbage.
Yeah.
Back in 2000.
I like her. I mean, I'm sure I don't agree with a lot of the things she believes politically, but I do like her.
But at this, I think I was at the Trocadero or something. One of these places, I think, just off of Market here. And it's like, hey, it's not 80s or anything like that, but I was on a date. Mm-hmm. We had these tickets and we were having a great time and everything like that. Sure. Right beside me, a lesbian couple.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Ask me if I care. I don't.
Right.
Knock yourself out. But at the end of this concert, she was in my face. She was in everybody's face, basically saying, I'm the alpha partner in this relationship.
Right.
And you're in the city, and you have to accept me.
Have to.
And
you do. But even being like this idea of, because that's the thing.
What we're all talking about.
Liberals, right now anyway, are bullies.
Exactly.
And a bully is insatiable.
And a poor loser, too.
And a bully is insatiable. If you get, and Patrice O'Neill would always talk about, he's my favorite comedian that ever was. I love him to death. And he would say that, if a bully gets your money today, he doesn't come tomorrow to school and say, hey, thanks for the money yesterday. He says, give me another fucking $1. And in fact, give me $1.05. Like, he wants more fucking.
Exactly.
It's insatiability. And that's when they, and I get it. I understand the pendulum because, again, we were fucking, we're swinging black people from trees, and we were, we, by the way, changes. But, like, because, by the way, I was thinking about that today. This whole idea of women are always oppressed and women are poor women. Have you ever seen a picture of lynchings? Who's in the goddamn picture pointing up at the black person hanging from a tree? White women. Yep. White women smiling from ear to ear with a black man dangling right near their fucking faces. Fuck you. You were always oppressed. You know what I mean? Yep. It's nuanced. There is context. This is deeper than just black and white. And I know that's another thing too. It goes back to that stupid, and I'm going so far off tangents. Guys, by the way, this is kind of what the podcast is going to be like. I'm going to be off in a million different soapboxes and tangents from time to time.
Very good, because it's like, when you look at it, it's like, should the podcast ever be done? No, because it's a discussion that's always evolving.
Right. And I'm going to contradict myself, and I'm going to, and that's okay.
We're all growing with it. And the thing is, like, when we start any conversation, it's like, well, what's he talking about? What's he talking about? So it's all the background.
Right.
That actually will, at one point, interwove together
Hopefully.
To give you a picture or a reason. I mean,
right.
It's like, I don't really want to say anything as an opinion because somebody said that was their opinion, now it's mine.
Right.
I pretty much formed this opinion from experiences.
Exactly.
And for some reasons, and if I don't have an opinion, I don't. It's probably because I don't have enough experience in it, and I'm willing to say so.
Right.
I have nothing to say.
Right.
As a kid and everything like that, one of my favorite sayings is, "What do you think? What do you think?" It's like, I would say, I have nothing to say. I mean, I really don't, and
You're
I'm not missing
backline.
anything. And yeah, but at the same time, I'm not missing anything either. So.
Well, what I was thinking was like, it goes back to that idea of a lot of these white liberals, or liberals in general, have this idealistic idea of black people as an example, of like, they're always oppressed and they're always like,
That's
if you
bullshit.
think that black people like are morally superior, you don't know any black people.
Exactly.
I know awesome black people and I know shitty black people. I know awesome white people and shitty white people.
Exactly.
Humanity does not. It goes back to that Jurassic. Life finds a way. Human nature is a motherfucker. This animal that we are, like what we are, not versus who we
Yes.
are. What we are
Yes.
is what we fucking are. We're going to do horrible, horrific shit, no matter what our skin color is, no matter what's dangling in between our legs. We are humans.
Exactly,
You
and
know?
back to the back to what I was telling you about the experiences of like L.A. was like, there's a very, very fine line between those behaviors that you deem to be unacceptable and primitive.
Push a little closer to your face.
Primitive versus what you think today we're just nicely dressed as,
Right.
as civilized people per se.
Right.
It's a very, very fine line. Very, very fine line.
Right. And I'm not even saying that those people who did like that do awful shit are just completely should be defined by that one thing. That's human nature too, to just like,
Exactly.
you cut me off on the road, you should die. You know what I mean? Like, I get that. That's human nature. But I've done awful shit too. And that driving is a great example. Every time I get mad at somebody for doing something, 5 fucking minutes later, I'm cutting somebody else off. You know what I mean? Or I'm like doing the same thing because I was texting. Oops, sorry. You know what I mean? Like, that's what humanity is. We're bumping into each other. And the social contracts that we have, which, obviously they are guidelines for the wise, right? But they are necessary, because otherwise our complete animal nature would take over.
Yes.
And that means rape and murder. You know what I mean? That means eating each other on a real level. So it does make sense that we have social constructs, but that doesn't mean we should clamp down, or at least that doesn't mean we should be dishonest about the fact that I do want to kill people sometimes, or I do get so lusty, that I feel like just fucking taking it. You know what I mean? Or like that I do judge someone so harshly, or that I do like that it does make sense to be a little fucking racist from time to time. That it is okay to judge people. That that it's all right. That we're all doing the best we can. And ultimately, I think when we should shut the fuck up. But like, and goddamn it, I want you back on because this was a lot of fun. But like, I don't think it's the end of the world. You know what I mean? That like we were talking about earlier. Like, we've been through a lot worse.
Oh yes.
And it's okay. Like, things are okay. Bill Hicks had this bit where, and this was 92, 93. The comedian Bill Hicks was talking about how he turns on CNN and it's war, disease, famine, AIDS, war, disease, famine, AIDS. And he looks outside and it's like the birds are chirping and the sun is shining. He's like, where's all this shit happening, man? Like, there's something to that. Not that we shouldn't vote and we shouldn't care about the plight of the but like, right here, right now, in this fucking podcast studio, look at what we're doing. You know what I mean? Just the fact that we have the ability to do this and get some Diet Cokes and some Fuji waters and some fucking chips, and we're, things are okay. Right now, listening to our stupid bullshit, or at least my stupid bullshit. Sheldon's smart, but like, listening to my stupid bullshit in a car, like, you're okay where you are. You're on your way to work. You have a job. Good for you. You have food in the car because you just went grocery shopping. Good for you. You lucky son of a bitch. Be fucking grateful. Things are okay. It's not the end of the goddamn world.
My neighbor, who's 85 years old and brilliant, he was one of the original rocket scientists.
Wow.
Like
words, that when NASA was more active down here in Mountain View?
He was on the Titan rocket project, which was the real ICBM rocket. I mean, that's what he did during his time. he told me something very, very interesting, because you can always learn from something wise from people who have lived to tell you about it.
Yeah.
And, human nature is human nature and everything. And he said, what an interesting time. It is an interesting time. It's like back in the day, growing up it was North Carolina for him. He said, there are people that were poor, and people that were poor hardly even had an outhouse. Think about that. Now he looks, we got the homeless out there. They're homeless. They're homeless here. But I dare say, let's walk down the street right now. We'll see the homeless. Yeah, okay, there's crap on the streets or whatever like that. Mm-hmm. I can almost guarantee you one thing. They're climbing onto their smartphone.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck? If that isn't a what the fuck moment, it's like, come on, wake up, people. Wake up, You really got to do that. They're all on a plan. Somebody's plan. Somewhere and everything like that.
And not just that, but like before I got sober, like I hung out with homeless people. Like a lot of those, I've heard from people I don't want to. Like it may sound stupid, but or it sound like judgmental, but like a lot of motherfuckers are really caught on drugs and alcohol and don't want to climb out of what they have gotten into their routines, into their safety net of, I know if I go here, I'll get a bowl of soup. And other than that, I want crack and fucking, and natural ice beer. Like, does have to do with decisions. It's not just the poor plight of the, try to fucking take somebody off of the street right now. If you care that much, you sanctimonious douche. Like if you care that much,
put them in your house.
Put them in your fucking house. I guarantee. They're not just houseless. Like there's something that.
This is a whole can of worms and everything.
Right, I know.
Like that. There's a whole story about that. It happens even in the smallest towns in Canada. My hometown in Canada is experiencing, and has been experiencing, like severe addiction issues. As a matter of fact, I was there, and it's like, call me heartless or whatever. Like I went back there in the summertime, and there was just 300 feet away from the house that we still own, and I have cameras up there, so I'm watching it all the time.
Right.
And they're the same versions of the libertards are there. They're out there saying, you're killing people by not having a safe injection site right here, and we want it here. It's like, why don't you have your safe injection site 5 minutes up by the hospital? Oh, no, that's unacceptable. Well, we have to have it here. And if you don't have it here, all these people are dying. And they were presenting some silly numbers, like 20 people. And I stood up and I said, you say that you have 20 people that are no longer here. That's unfortunate and everything like that. I'd like to know how you got those numbers. But at the end of the day, and I showed them pictures from my camera of all the trespassers that were hanging out that place, that were breaking into my neighbor's house.
Wow.
And everything's like, that's 20 people I don't have to worry about seeing on this camera.
Shit! Oh, shit!
I pay my fucking taxes up there too, And it's like,
that's cold, but that makes sense.
Don't even come to me and say that I'm killing these people, because it's like, that's not the case. If you wanted me to do so, you lined them up and everything, I'll pull the trigger. I would do that. But there's a far difference between claiming that because I didn't allow them to have a safe injection site there, that we were going to save 20 people. How many safe injection site people would you have? They have to have right there. You're telling me they can't walk 5 minutes to save their life. Well, if they're not going to walk 5 minutes to save their life,
and the other thing is,
that's the best thing for them, because you know what? All the therapy in the world, they're better off dead, because their therapy was going nowhere.
Most of the time, yeah. And the other thing is, and we really should shut up, but the other thing is that making it more legal doesn't fix the problem. I know it sounds like it does, because remember prohibition? Okay, but what's the problem? Maybe it's not crime. Maybe it's that these people are dying. So alcohol is super legal, right? These homeless people can get alcohol anytime. Does it stop? Does the numbers of death from alcohol lower? No, it grows. I'm not saying that the problem is we should lock down and make all of these drugs illegal, because I'm more libertarian when it comes to that stuff. But I am saying that doesn't fix the problem. It's a nuanced problem, just like all of this stuff. And anyway, so
Well,
Thank you so much for
what
coming
we're gonna
on,
do?
man.
We're gonna end this chapter with a toast, actually.
Oh, we are.
How are we gonna actually toast this? You know what?
After you spilled half of your Wendy.
You know what I'm gonna toast to?
What?
Lying, cheating, and stealing. Now,
Why would we do that?
Why? Because you know what? We should lie to save the soul of a friend. We should all cheat death, and we should all steal the heart of the one that we love.
Oh, that's so nice, ladies and gentlemen. Sheldon,
that was a wonderful time.
let's knock our Samantha and Wendy together. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let me go ahead and promote something real quick. Do you have anything to promote, Sheldon? Oh, Jesus. Fucking with this fucking computer. You don't have anything to promote? Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, will be playing music. Let's see. Vinyl Replay will be... Oh, no, we'll do it. That's a private party. I'll be playing music at Amelie Wine Bar in San Francisco at 7 p.m., 7 to 10, really, on Sunday, August 12th in San Francisco. And I will be playing on August 18th at Duvin Wine Bar in Oakland between 7 and about 10. So I hope to see you at one of those. And if not, you're the devil. Nothing to promote, Sheldon, regarding Vinyl Replay?
Well, I think Vinyl Replay is playing in...
Vinyl Replay, the hard rock 80s band.
We're in El Sogno.
Il Sogno. That's tomorrow. This won't be up by tomorrow.
Oh.
Well, but where can they find your more dates?
Check. What do you call it? The Facebook.
The Facebook.
I don't
The
even
face.
think Facebook.
Facebook. At VINYLREPLAY. You know how to fucking spell it. Why am I doing that?
Vinyl Replay.
Vinyl Replay, hottest 80s hits. Like them on Facebook. Follow them. They're a great band. Really a lot of fun. And thank you so much. Hope to see you all on episode 2. Thank you again, Sheldon.
Hey, thanks a lot.